Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for being here. I have another fantastic and fascinating guest with me today. Her name is Arlene Cohen Miller. She is an AV rated attorney, professional certified coach, and work life balance coach who brings a wealth of training and experience to help women compassionately lead themselves and create a life with less stress and more patience, kindness, and peace, as well as with more confidence and joy. Arlene, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, first question I have for you, because I had to look it up myself, and just for the listeners, they might be wondering what an AV rated attorney is. So, for those of us who don't know, could you explain?
So, an AV rated attorney is the highest kind of rating that you can get in the United States as an attorney. So I guess since I got it, I'll just let people know that, that's the accreditation that I do have.
hmm Well, congratulations. It seems like that is a high honor, and you certainly have earned it. So, I would like to know how you got involved in the law in the first place. What drew you to the practice of law?
I don't know. It was not like when I was 15, I just decided I'm going to be a lawyer, and I had no lawyers in my family. My family was mom and dad were just sort of nodding, yeah, 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 right. But I did. I went to college. I went to law school, and I did get my degree, and I did decide to practice law. I just felt like it was a really cool way to help people. And I also felt that as a woman, I wanted to be able to take care of myself and decide when or when not I was going to be in a relationship. I would always like be financially responsible for myself. So there was that passion to help people. And there was also that feeling that I just wanted to be able to take care of myself, full stop.
hmm So, when you did finish law school and you went into the workforce, what was that like? Did you go out on your own right away, or did you join a firm, or what was that like? Because I don't know, how many women there really were in law practices back when you graduated.
It was about a third of my class, so it was pretty new then. It wasn't nearly as big as it is now.
hmm
I got married after my first year of law school, so my then husband and I moved up from Louisville, Kentucky. I went to the University of Kentucky College of Law up to Cleveland, Ohio. He was a medical student. He was doing his residency at the Cleveland Clinic, so I was like taken away from everything, and I had to take a second bar examination. So I was a law clerk for a little bit. Then I worked for one main law firm as an associate. And
hmm
after about 3.5 years, I went out on my own.
hmm
I didn't really like working for other people.
hmm
And I really couldn't find a law firm that wanted to hire me and do what I wanted to do. So I'm like, that's okay. I really didn't know what I was doing, but we had moved to the western part of Cleveland. There's two sides of the Cuyahoga River. One's more west, one's more east. Felt more like Louisville, Kentucky, where I grew up. And so I just found a Main Street office. There was two attorneys in it. There was an employment agency. I put out my shingle, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I decided that was what I was going to do.
hmm Well,
So that, yeah.
congratulations. I don't
Yeah,
like
thank
working
you.
for other people either. And I'm actually a respiratory therapist was my first career. Then I went back to school and got my master's in physical therapy and realized I really hated that. So I went out on my own. I just did exactly what you did. Had no idea what I was doing, but I had my own practice for 18 years, so it did work out. But there are times when you just have to take that plunge.
Yeah. Yeah, and after I put up my shingle about a month later, I found out I was pregnant. And we had just decided I was what, 29, that I just had this thing, I have to have a kid. I went through law school, I didn't want children then. And well, he came before I got pregnant before we tried. So obviously he was meant to be here, but
hmm
that was really hard,
hmm
to because all of our family was in Kentucky, not up in Ohio.
hmm
And all of my peers, my legal friends and my connections, they were in Kentucky and Indiana,
Oh,
and we
wow.
were up in Ohio. So it was a really big, and that's part of the reason I feel like I became a work-life balance coach. Because I just sort of went by the seat of my pants. How do
hmm
I start a business, get a business going, be pregnant, have a kid? And my ex was in residency. He was working
hmm
70 or 80 hours a week. So I had some financial stability from that, but I didn't have a partner there to work with to help me take care of our son when he was born. So it was a big deal. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
went through a lot to I made it through. Obviously, I'm here and he's all grown up and I have a grandson from him, but it was difficult, you know. It
Mm-hmm.
was not an easy thing.
Well, it's hard enough just trying to adjust to being a new mom, let alone trying to run a business and not having that emotional support from other people around you, from friends, from family. That's just really, and then still trying to take care of your clients at the same time.
Well, I did find a way. You know, back then I was a runner and I found a couple other women who, after my son was born, who had young kids and we would go running together. We put them in we found a workout club. They'd be in
Hmm.
childcare there. We go for a run. We'd have our little chat while we were running for 45 minutes or an hour. And so I did find, a group of women and actually some men too,
Hmm.
that I ran with. And it really helped to have that release, plus to have other women who were working and had kids and understood.
Hmm. Oh, that's so important. That companionship, the camaraderie, and people who really understand because they're in the same position too. So,
Right.
what brought you to Colorado?
Well, I got divorced and I had another relationship. And as a initial attorney, I was a divorce attorney. So I was doing divorce, dissolving marriages, child
Mm,
custody. I was even appointed by the court to be a guardian ad litem, which represented kids their parents were getting divorced, but there was a lot of funky stuff going on, maybe alcoholism or drugs.
mm,
And I was young, I came from a pretty like middle class family. I didn't really have the tools to deal with all of that back then. I do now because I sort
mm-hmm,
of went on the spiritual journey. But I was sort of flat on the ground from that. So I switched after about 4 or 5 years, and I was also doing a lot of commercial law. I was helping businesses collect their debts. One of the
mm-hmm,
people that came into the office that I worked at helped businesses collect their debts, but needed an attorney to take them to lawsuit. I was
mm-hmm,
that attorney,
mm-hmm,
and I started sending cases to other states where, you know, it wasn't in Ohio. So
mm-hmm,
I just at one point said I've had enough of family law. That's going to give me an ulcer. I'm
mm-hmm,
not equipped to be with people that are at their worst all the time. Maybe
mm-hmm,
if I was older when I went into it, it would have been different. So I
mm-hmm,
went into commercial law and I went up to a meeting in Chicago, just said, I'm going to do this.
mm-hmm,
And it was one of these big meetings with about 2,500 people. I met my second husband there. I
mm-hmm.
ended up selling my business in Ohio. And when my son was not my 9, after we dated long distance for 3 years, I moved out to Colorado where he had his commercial law firm, used the
Mm-hmm.
proceeds to buy into it as a partner. And that's how we ended up in Colorado.
Well, that is an incredible self-awareness that you had to be able to recognize that this just wasn't working for you and that you were probably going to either lose your mind or lose your physical health if you had kept up with that. So, kudos to you. When you work with people now, do you help them kind of see that light if they're obviously burnt out but don't know what to do?
I do my best, because there's coaching and there's mentoring, and I do both. And so I'm now basically working with men and women because
Hmm.
there's just so many people nowadays, especially since COVID, and especially if they're continuing to work remotely or even in person where there's a lot of stress on them,
Hmm.
and I'm finding a lot of burnout with both men and women. And so it's that's what I love to do. I sort of went on a journey when my son was 3 and I got divorced the first time because
Hmm.
he developed really bad ADHD. And I think sometimes the universe sort of gives you a gift like that because I went on this journey to heal him and I ended up healing myself. I helped him
Hmm.
as well. But so I learned all these techniques and tools to help people to breathe, to relax, to all these ways to mitigate stress. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I do bring that to people because I really feel like it's important that we just don't read self-help books or go to seminars. We learn how to heal ourselves from the inside out so
Hmm.
that we're having a different experience on the inside. And then when we're handling things on the outside, it's a different experience, even if there's just as much a demand on us as before.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Learning how to deal with stress and not let it tear you down or tear you apart is really so important, not only for your physical, mental, emotional, and psychological health and well-being, but also for the people around you. And by the way, your son is incredibly handsome.
Oh, thank you. He is a very handsome man,
Yes,
and
he
he's very
is.
and then he really went beyond. Well, he looks a lot like his dad. His dad's very handsome as well, but he really moved beyond all that ADHD, and I'm so proud of him. He is a chess teacher. He was won a national championship when he was in the 10th grade, and he teaches before and after chess schools in Colorado, runs tournaments, does online facilitating, and he couldn't work for anyone else either. He's his own entrepreneur,
Hmm.
very successful at what he does and working with kids. And so I am incredibly proud of him because he went through a difficult journey,
Yeah.
with all that ADHD coming up, at young, when he was younger.
Hmm. And I think that there wasn't as much awareness on ADHD back when he was a
Mm-mm.
young boy.
No, there wasn't. It wasn't like now where you can look around and see all these people with ADHD. I didn't know anybody else who had that.
Hmm.
So it was probably there and maybe undiagnosed, but his was pretty obvious.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's come a long way, and I give him full credit for that.
Hmm. I even wonder sometimes, as an adult, all the boys that I went to school with who were always in trouble with the teachers and everything, I think back now, I wonder how many of them really had ADHD.
Yeah, and I also feel that there's the school system's a little bit broken. I know this is off key a little bit, but
Hmm.
when I watch parents who are homeschooling their homeschooling their kids and they're out in nature and they're running around and they're playing and they're connecting and they're involved in all these kind of activities, that just seems like such a healthy alternative for boys and girls, to really get
Hmm.
out there. When I was in school, grade school, we had two recesses, we had art, we had music, we had all sorts of other kinds of alternatives. And I really think that that's incredibly important for children growing up.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially the art and the music. We did have that. I don't remember recess. We never had recess when I was in school, where I went to school, but we did have art and we did have music. And, then I went to junior high and God forbid they had gym class, which, ugh, I really hated. Hated it, gym class with a passion. It would be if you'd let me go outside and play alone or with a bunch of kids, that'd be fine. But gym class, ugh, yeah, I still have nightmares about that.
I remember that too.
Okay, so now when you're talking about the coaching and the work-life balance, and in your profile you explained that you bring a lot of your experiences as a negotiator and all of those skills to the table when you're working with clients.
Yeah. Because I think, well, that's one of the reasons about 6 years before we sold the practice in Colorado, I just knew that law school, I was on the phone. One of my jobs was negotiating settlements, either in
Mm,
person, most of it on the phone, and to be the marketer. I did a lot of the marketing for the law firm by being involved in some national organizations and chairing committees and things like that. And I just could tell that yeah, I could be with people, but my communication skills and my negotiating skills could use some polishing because I really wasn't taught that. We were taught to win in law school.
ah,
And so that I got a diploma in coaching and mentoring in those 6 years. I got a diploma in transformational holistic counseling. It's from Australia, so I
mm-hmm,
can't be a counselor here, but the training was invaluable. And I also became a certified meditation facilitator. And
mm-hmm,
so what that gave me was the skills on how to communicate with people better and how
mm-hmm,
to really listen. We're not really taught how to listen because most people and I think as coaches and as mentors that's an invaluable gift that we can give to people because usually if we're talking to somebody they're thinking about what I'm going to say back
mm-hmm,
to like maybe one up them tell them about my experience or the next question or whatever it is but we're not like fully present with them and that's a huge gift we can give to people because I feel it like opens doors it like opens a really expansive judgment free unconditional
mm-hmm.
positive regard space to really share more than you might with any other person and that kind of experience is really invaluable for people to have.
Hmm. So now, as a meditation facilitator, at what point did you embrace meditation? At what point in your journey did you realize that you started meditating and realized the impact that it had on you?
Well, I started playing with that maybe 20 years ago. And I didn't get certified as a meditation facilitator until in the past 10 years. One of my
Mm-hmm.
friends, I have a lot of friends who are in those kind of realms, and she started deciding that she was going to teach that. And she had been like, I mean, just a really awesome meditator, had gone to a university. She lives in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
in the United States, where that was a lot of the big deal of the university, really skilled in that. And I thought, well, that'd be cool. So, but I have been doing it for years, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I just think it's invaluable. And there's not just one kind of meditation. I tend to have, I mean, I passed on ADHD. I think we passed it on genetically. So
Mm-hmm.
I do have some of those tendencies. And I find that for me, sometimes the meditation, when it's not freezing in Colorado like it is now, is to go out for a walk, and
Mm-hmm.
just not a power walk, but just a really slow walk in nature, really appreciating the Colorado mountains, the beauty around
Mm-hmm.
here, breathing, slowing down. So there's all kinds of ways to meditate and detoxify ourselves so
Mm-hmm.
that we become more grounded, more fully present, and let stuff go that we've been
Mm-hmm.
carrying around on our shoulders, maybe from our workday, maybe from what's going on in our family. Maybe we have
Mm-hmm.
elderly parents or kids that are going through a hard time. And so yeah, I guess that's the best I can do to answer that
Mm-hmm.
question.
I am somebody who has flunked meditation multiple times, and I've talked to a lot of people that said, "Oh, well, you're just not doing it right." And they would try and coach me, and it was like, you know what? When I can go outside and go for a walk or even just sit in my yard or even start to do some slow movement patterns like from my martial arts or a dance move, that's when I can get out of my head and into my body, and that's when I can really settle down. So I'm glad you mentioned that there are many ways of meditating. It doesn't have to be
Right.
the sitting still and the Buddha pose or whatever, because that just doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for a lot of people.
Right, right. And that kind of slow Tai Chi stuff or whatever that
Mm,
you're taking on, that's an awesome way to meditate because
mm-hmm,
you're working with breath work, you're working
mm-hmm,
with movement, you're focusing on that movement. So yeah, there's not one way that fits all. And even just sitting and quietly working with some certain kind of breath work that helps to
mm-hmm,
take us from fight or flight to rest and
mm-hmm,
relax mode, or helps us to align to love and center in our hearts. That kind of stuff we can do as well as we're doing other things.
mm-hmm.
So it's breath work is a part of meditation, but if we're in the middle of stuff, we can play
Mm-hmm.
with that as well.
One of the things I notice too is that when I do that, I can solve all the world's problems. Maybe not all the world's problems, but at least my own. That I would come up with solutions just that would just pop into my head instantaneously. That was like I didn't see that before because I was so focused on, the problem, that once I could start moving and start breathing and just get grounded, it was like, oh, voila.
And that's because lots of times when we're in that kind of anxious state, we
Mm-hmm.
contract. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's nothing that we can feel other than our stress. And when we're in that more expanded state with that movement and feeling and breath work that you're talking about, our energy expands
Mm-hmm.
out. So we have a lot more available space and heart openingness. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's a word, to actually have those feelings and new ideas come to us with it that were there all along, but now we're open to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's a great example of that.
Mm-hmm. And since you mentioned heart opening, that's a perfect segue, is that you also have a yoga practice, like meditative yoga. When did the yoga come into play and how did you discover that?
Well, I was a runner when I first came out to Colorado, and I was doing half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks. I was being the runner in triathlons, and I did not listen to my body, and I basically
Mm,
ran it into the ground. So I had really bad pain from the middle of my rear end to the middle of my um, back of my knee on both sides, and
mm-hmm,
excruciating pain. It took like a year and
mm-hmm,
a half to heal. And that's when I found I'm not doing it as much anymore, that kind of Bikram hot yoga, where it's an
mm,
hour and a half of intensive sweating. And I got the same high from it. And I thought, I'll do it until I heal. And then I just felt like, you know what? Took me a year and a half to heal.
mm-hmm,
I really love yoga. It's giving me so much more than just that endorphin high that running gave me.
mm-hmm,
And my body, it feels a lot kinder to my body. At
Mhm.
that time, I was like 46, 47, and it
Mhm.
just felt like it was better for me than the pounding. And then
Mhm.
I got into different kinds of yoga, like the vinyasa flow, some sculpt kind of work. I do tend towards the more physical kind of yoga, but
Mhm.
that helps me to just be more fully present with myself. And we do breathe in those yogas. So, um, yeah, I really love it. I really am grateful for it. And that Colorado has so many amazing yoga schools. And I found one right in Longmont where I live that is just, it's fantastic.
I might even know who that is. I might have interviewed her a few years ago.
There's a new owner there now.
Oh,
She just
okay.
came in about less than 6 months ago. But yeah,
Mhm.
so yeah, the old owners were fantastic. And the
Mhm.
new one is amazing as well. And there's a lot more different kinds of classes. So
Mhm.
I'm just incredibly grateful to have a community like that. Um,
Mhm.
because they come from
Colorado,
all, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
Colorado is rich with alternative healing techniques, and from Denver, Boulder, everywhere, and it's just a fantastic place if you're looking for alternative health and healing. And of course, yoga is huge. But I wanted to go back to the running part just because I've got to ask. I'm originally from a small steel town in western Pennsylvania, moved out to Colorado after I graduated college. So I'm wondering, coming from Ohio to Colorado, when you started running, what was that like with your breathing as a former
No, I
respiratory
no,
therapist?
I ran when I was in Ohio. I started running as a freshman in college.
Mm-hmm.
So I was running in Ohio and I was a crazy woman back then. I would run when they had snowstorms. I would run through everything as a young person. So it when you move from, sea level to
Right.
Colorado, it takes 6 weeks for your blood to
Mm-hmm.
change
Mm-hmm.
and for it to be oxygenated enough to be at, almost
Mm-hmm.
a mile up where we live right now. So it was interesting.
Uh-huh.
But it really only took 6 weeks for my body to change. And then I started running. I mean, I just had to adjust my mental expectations because you cannot run as fast when you're a
Mm-hmm.
mile up.
Mm-hmm.
People come here to train because if you go back to sea level, your times are fantastic. So
Right.
you just have to adjust your ego and do the
Mm-hmm.
best that you can.
Well, I was never a runner, but I did ski when I was in Pennsylvania. That's where I learned how to ski when I was 9 years old. And when I came out here and started skiing in this fantastic, the mountains are amazing, best skiing in the world. Don't tell anybody else that. We have enough people here already. But going from that altitude, which really was probably 2,000 feet, in Pennsylvania in those mountains, and going up to the Rockies, man, it would just kill me. And you're right, it didn't take very long to acclimate for that, erythropoietin to kick in. But, now it's just when I go back to sea level, it's just like, I've got all this energy. Why?
Yeah. Yeah, I did go through that a little bit. I dated my ex for 3 years, and so I would come out here and he would laugh. Even when it took me up to the mountains about halfway up, I would always fall asleep. It was like, gone. So it'd take me a while, but um yeah, I acclimated after a while and got used to it. And I mean, running is interesting out here with all the hills and the mountains and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I'm really glad that when I was younger, had the opportunity to run in those races and to have those experiences.
Excellent. So do you still run even just a little bit, or you just stick with the yoga?
No, I hike. I hike in the mountains of Colorado. And when I first came out here when I was 37,
Hmm.
I did learn how to ski, which was really interesting to do that as an adult.
Yes.
My joke was I would just hire really handsome instructors and follow them down the slopes, and that's how I learned to ski. But yeah, I did learn how to ski and could like ski the groomed mom skis and all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff. So Colorado is a great place for all of that.
Yeah. It's like having a playground in your own backyard. It's just
It
awesome.
is. Yeah, the hiking is wonderful too, though.
Oh, the hiking is just amazing. But where I live now, I mean, I'm in Denver, and things have gotten so crowded and the traffic has gotten so bad that getting up to the mountains to go hiking, or, we quit skiing a couple of years ago, but we, still love to hike, but to get up there is such an ordeal that it takes what used to take us an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and now it takes 3 hours. One of my girlfriends went up to Vail about 2 weeks ago, and it took her 6 hours to get there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's not fun. I'd rather just stay
No.
here and do something around town. So now you say that, okay, I just want to ask a little bit more about this, the transformative healing and heart alchemy mentoring. So explain especially the heart alchemy mentoring.
Well, I think that a lot of us, I mean, I know that when I was younger in this life, the way that I protected myself is I sort of closed off my heart.
Mm,
And so I was, and so the law was perfect. I could be more of a head case. And
mm-hmm,
so when my son, needed me more when he was around 3 and I got divorced, I went on a healing journey, learned all different kinds of healing modalities, and just went on this experience of opening my heart, but learning how to protect it. Because when
mm,
I was younger, I really did not know how to protect it. So if someone was lovely to me, but then they had like a reaction or something, it felt like they, punched me in the chest. So I guess what I teach and what I facilitate with people is, how to energetically protect yourself. It's
mm-hmm,
important to have clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries of what's okay and not okay in your life, but it's also important to have that kind of energetic protection as well. And
mm-hmm,
so when I'm mentoring people, if they're interested, I do help them to um, learn how to let go of stuff that's not working for them, that those thoughts and that inner critic and stuff, and also
mm-hmm,
how to, I mean, there's many things I do, but to really hold that big loving space.
mm-hmm,
And if we drop it because someone triggers us or we have a reaction or we
mm-hmm,
take something personally, which can drop our energetic protection, how to put that back up and how
mm-hmm,
to protect yourself energetically. I tend to attract a lot of people that are very sensitive.
mm-hmm,
And so it's like my pleasure to pass it on because I really feel that if I'd had those skills and abilities that I've been taught when I was a young divorce attorney and child
mm-hmm,
custody thing, I wouldn't have been whammied so bad by what people were going through. I would have had a more a mature way of holding a space. And it
mm-hmm,
wasn't just the clients, a lot of it was how the legal system was and how other attorneys were treating me.
mm-hmm,
That didn't feel professional or kind because
mm-hmm,
of the way the kind of the divorce custody business was. It was all about getting the most you can and winning instead of, let's work this
mm-hmm,
out in a way that it is going to be within the realms of what the courts and the law say we can do.
mm-hmm,
And so yeah, that's something that I really am passionate about
mm-hmm,
helping people with if it's something that they're interested in.
mm-hmm. I like to say that because I went through my own journey of healing, blah, blah, blah. Think we all do when we hit the wall. You either just don't come back or you find a way. But when you can protect your heart, then you can give it away more freely. And that was just one of those mental head smacking moments for me because, in some of the work that I do, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner as well as the martial art. And even in our art, our working stance, it's very soft. It's not one of these, art forms, not a hard art, that we do kind of have one hand over our heart. So we're kind of like protecting it energetically. And, the respiratory therapist slash PT in me was going, that just sounds really ridiculous. But then after I started practicing, it really made a huge difference. And it was like just mind boggling because when you know you can protect yourself energetically as well as physically, that makes a huge difference in your life and
Yeah.
your
I mean,
relationships.
yeah, absolutely. And we automatically physically do things to protect ourselves. If we cross our arms, we cross our
Mm-hmm.
this, or even if we cross our legs, we're
Mm-hmm.
energetically, and we can just do it really subtly, one hand over the other, or, when we're talking or working with something or just crossing our ankles, it does help to physically protect ourselves. And I guess the other thing I'd like to add that I help people with, because you're talking about the heart, is that um, I like to help people to learn how to fill their cup up with love. And we're just sharing the overflow of that love with other people. Because if we're just sharing the overflow, our cup of love is filled up. And we're not going to keep on going down, 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 down until we're on empty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask, let me see, where are we going here? Okay, the heart alchemy, we got that. The soul readings. So, okay, because to me, heart and soul is not just a song, I mean, they go, your heart and your soul goes together.
Right,
Mind,
right.
body, soul, spirit.
Yeah. Um, I was trained, I mean, I could always do like readings without cards, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's like around 8 years ago, a friend of mine had been trained and I was visiting Australia where she lived and she wanted to train me, and I said, sure. And basically, I'm not psychic, but I
Mhm.
can like heart connect with other people and share stuff with them. And I find
Mhm.
that, so I work with psychic tarot oracle cards, but
Mhm.
to me, it feels like an extension of mentoring because
Mhm.
they pick some cards even if we're doing it remotely. I have a way that I can move my finger back and forth on the cards and connect with them, and they can pick cards for them. I pick cards as well. Have them pick it for their personality. I pick it for their soul and spirit. And if they have any questions, they can throw them into the mix. But it is a reading that's not at the personality level, it's at the higher soul level.
Mhm.
So it's about like opportunities that are available to you, the challenges that you could be now facing or may be facing, how to move
Mhm.
around them and not fall into a deep, dark hole and still stay expanded out. And, anything else that comes up to share with them. And I just find that, everyone has a way of where the penny drops and they just get something.
Mhm.
We can have someone tell us something for years and just, yeah, 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 I get that. And
Mhm.
we're only getting it up here with our head. And it can come with coaching, it can come with mentoring, but this way of expanding mentoring out
Mhm.
seems to often be a really good way, especially for adults, because you have the visual
Mhm.
of the cards. And you
Mhm.
have also, they're selecting, half of the cards we're using.
Mhm.
And I just love it. I think it's just really a wonderful way to have people have that
Mhm.
ability to have that penny drop and go, oh my gosh, I get this now.
Mhm. Do you ever look back and think of the irony of going from law school, which is pretty, regimented, to something like this, which, is, I'm not going to say woo woo because that's disrespectful, but, so free flowing type of heart centered type of, not specific rules like you have in law or in medicine or whatever. Do you ever look back and say, see the difference? I mean, was that transition sometimes difficult for you to make that change?
I'm not really. I wasn't a traditional lawyer once I joined the law firm in Colorado.
Mhm.
I mean, I was on the phone a lot. I really didn't like law school that much, but I really feel like the skills and abilities I got there, apply now because the
Mhm.
people that I help are in all kinds of industry. They might be techies, they might be attorneys, they might be anybody. And so to have that ability to get what it's like to be a professional,
Mhm.
working in a
Mhm.
business, with employees or on your own or with a kid or not with a kid
Mhm.
or with married or divorced or whatever you are, all of that stuff, I feel it was meant to be. It all really comes
Mhm.
together. Yeah, there are moments when it's more one side of you than another side, but I
Mhm.
really feel it's helped me to be a more whole person and to bring that person with all those experiences to the people I'm working with.
Mhm.
And so that I cannot be, I feel I was more one-sided as an attorney and the practices of coaching and mentoring and meditation that I learned to bring into the practice helped me be a more of a whole person to help people from that space. So
Mhm.
I'm really grateful for it all. And I wouldn't trade, in this, life going to law school at all. I thought that it was a invaluable experience.
Mhm. What would you say to somebody who's listening to this right now and might be thinking, well, yeah, okay, that worked for her, but they feel so stuck that they don't even know if it's possible for them to be able to let go, to be able to change their mindset, open their heart, and be open to this type of lifestyle? Because basically, it is a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, I would say I understand completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started this off, I was a total head case. It just like I found a group that resonated with me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be a part of this group.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a long time to get out of my head and be more heart based. And it's a process, not a perfect. And I feel like it's like learning to run or learning anything like martial arts that you want to do. There's this thing in society now where there's like almost like magic fairy just comes down and we're totally different. And it's not like that. If there's anything that we really are interested in doing, it takes a lot of practice, and practice makes permanent. So I
Hmm.
feel like it's important to give ourselves the breadth and depth to have that experience, and to not get frustrated if it doesn't happen right away. Because what we can do is that, as we move along and we make mistakes and we have learning experiences, instead of beating ourselves up, we can look at those as opportunities to learn and grow, and
Hmm.
work with ourselves or a coach or someone else, where we're engaging with the mindset that practice makes permanent. And it's nothing new. If you look at some of the inventors, I mean, Thomas Edison or the Wright brothers, or so many people,
Hmm.
the amount of times that these people failed and fell
Hmm.
flat on their face is more times than most of us have even tried. So it's
Hmm.
in the human psyche, it's in the genetics somewhere. We have those abilities. We just have to really decide that I know I'm going to fall on my face. That's okay. I have the ability to pick myself up, and I'm willing to give it a go. And everyone's experience is going to be different. Yours is not going to be like mine.
Hmm.
And we have to give ourselves the grace that, I'm going to have my own unique flavor on my journey.
Hmm. Hmm. I love the fact that you said practice makes permanent instead of practice makes perfect.
Yeah. It's
I
just
mean,
not true.
no,
Who's
it is not
perfect?
true. And it puts so much pressure on you. And you
Right.
you can't achieve that, so it's just putting yourself back into that cycle of, you know, imperfection and frustration and can't achieve
Right.
anything and self-judgment, and I could go on and on about that,
I agree
because I
100%.
I know a lot about it. Okay, so now looking back, how old were you when you started law school?
I was 22.
Okay, so go back to 22-year-old Arlene in law school. If you could have looked into the future and saw what you were doing now, what would you say to yourself, or what would you think if somebody told you, hey, this is what you're going to be doing years from now?
Probably think you're crazy. I mean, I never studied coaching and mentoring and meditation to go out of the practice of law. I had
Hmm.
just done it for so many years. I was burnt out, and I did love the practice of law. The freedom we get from coaching and mentoring is you can make your own schedule. With the
Mm,
practice of law, I just got really, I mean, if we traveled on business, if we took a vacation,
yeah.
it was always there. So you had to work really, really hard before you left, really, really hard when you came back. I mean, yes, we had associates and paralegals and everything,
Hmm.
but there was still a lot of responsibility for having your own business. And if I'd worked for someone else, there would have been a lot of responsibility as well.
Hmm.
And I just needed something different. So I wouldn't have known that when I was 22.
Hmm.
And so I would have thought you were crazy.
Hmm.
Like I wouldn't didn't go through all of this to give it away, but I really didn't give it away.
Hmm.
I was a lawyer for many, many years.
Hmm. Well, those are skills that you will always have. I mean, I kind of felt that
Right.
way about physical therapy school. I really, like I said, I didn't embrace it. I didn't love it because I thought, why did I do this? I made a huge mistake. But the things that I learned, and then I was able to go out on my own and open up my own practice and do what I wanted, that was really pretty powerful and very
Yeah.
liberating.
Yeah. And all that you know about the body with what we do with those sticks behind you. Um,
Don't you love them?
yeah, I mean that has got to be good to know that kind of stuff.
It really is. Talk about empowering. I started training in my martial art at the tender young age of 47, and there's a long story behind it. You can see the book behind me, The Reluctant Ninja, of why I started doing it. And basically, I knew I was going to hate it. And my teacher was my sensei was actually my acupuncturist before he became my teacher. And the first time he met me, he was trying to get me to on the mat with him. He wanted me to train with him, and I'm like, this is never going to happen. It took him 3 years until he finally wore me down. And I said, I thought I was stubborn. My God, he's even worse than I am. So finally, I told him, I said, all right, I will take a few classes just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it, and then I'm going to quit. And 10 years later, I became his first female black belt.
Wow. The same thing happened to me with going in. the diploma of coaching and mentoring. One of my friends graduated from another school and she just felt it wasn't heart-centered enough and started her own. And she kept on saying, Arlene, come and do it, come and do it. And I was like, excuse me, I was so freaking arrogant. It's like, I have college, I have law school, I don't need anything else, I am fine. And it was the
Yeah.
best thing I ever did for myself. And, looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, I had my head up a dark place. I didn't realize how much it could help me.
Mm-hmm.
But it took 3 years. It took three
Mm.
years. And she didn't keep on talking to me, but I could feel that she was holding this big space for me
Mm-hmm.
to maybe have a different experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Mark just kept on talking. That's my teacher. And here I am. This is what, 20 years later? Yeah, 21 years later. I'm still training. I'll be going to the dojo this afternoon, driving through the snow. Yeah, and I just absolutely love it. There's something about it that is so empowering because it's not necessarily all about the physicality of it, but that's a
Right.
part of it. And it's not, I mean, look at me. I'm not this big bruising person, but to be able to use your body in a way that you can take somebody else down is just so empowering. But there's a lot of spirituality that goes along with it and a lot of heart centered and soul. It's just amazing. It's the whole package.
Yeah, I didn't put my son through that, but I started him in karate when he was 7. He got his
Nice.
junior black belt, and then we moved out to Colorado. He
Mhm.
had to start over a little bit and got his senior black belt, because he was like, I forget what how old he was then, but he was like the best thing I ever did for him.
Mhm.
He sort of kicked and screamed a little bit, but the
I
way they
understand.
put him through the process and how they supported him as a kid was
Mhm.
amazing. And
Nice.
as a parent to watch that with him and the other kids was an invaluable experience.
hmm Well, my father actually had a black belt in karate, and I think he started karate when he was about 40. And this was after he had his fourth daughter. There are five of us. He had five girls. So karate was very important to him. Yes. And he kept trying to get us to go to the gym and train with him. And it's like, you're out of your mind. This is never going to happen. But even to this day, I mean, I had his black belt, I had his notes, I had a lot of other stuff, his certificate and everything. And I recently just packed it up and sent it to my nephew back in Pennsylvania, who he and my dad were very, very tight. So I wanted him to have that stuff. But it's really interesting. I'm still finding things now as I'm going through, purging and stuff. But he lived long enough to know that I got my third degree brown belt. So, and we would have some amazing conversations about it because I was the least out of all five of us that would ever do something like a martial art. I was the delicate one. I'm the little princess. I'm the little dancer. But, when I finally started taking classes, it just was something about this art that was it was just so sensuous and it was just so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a connection between dance and martial arts.
Of course, there is. There really is. So, Arlene, what would you tell people? I think I might have asked you this, but let's just say it again, who are thinking, yes, but I just can't do this. I wouldn't know how to start.
I guess, well, one of my yoga teachers always said, can't lives on won't street, which I thought was brilliant because it's like if you say you can't do it, with the law of attraction, you're telling yourself you can't. So, first of all, look at your language. And if there's
Mm,
something that you'd really like, choose to talk about it differently. It
mhm,
might be, I don't know how to do this now. This is not, but I know that this is something that I can integrate into my
mhm,
life. I'm a coach. I'm happy to work with you. I'm happy to talk with you. I'm offering you like a free mini soul reading to anyone that
mhm,
mentions you and contacts me. I'll give you that information in a little bit, but I
mhm,
would say that just one of the things of the law of attraction overall that you want to do for yourself is notice where you tell yourself I can't do this or all those kind of things, because if you're telling yourself that in any area of your life, then
mhm,
you're making it so it is so. And our language is really powerful. And oftentimes we have that inner critic in our head that tells us
mhm,
blah, 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 all the reasons why not. We have to buckle it up in the back seat and say, look, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I am going to give it a go. And if I can't do it myself, I'm going to find a mastermind group
mhm,
or a coach or someone to help me begin to move through this and see what happens.
mhm,
If you really feel in your heart of hearts, well, I'd really like to have some of this that Arlene is sharing with me, or whatever it is in your life that you'd like to have more of that you've been telling
mhm,
yourself, I can't. because we can be our biggest critics. We're the ones that can hold ourselves back. And I would say, let's stop that. And the more we can do that together, the stronger we all become. Because there's like a ripple that ripples out through all humanity. If we move beyond something and we go, oh my God, this is amazing, it gets re-imprinted in the lower Akashic records where everyone can access that. So it's part of our service to humanity as well when we move beyond that and all the places we said, I can't do that, we actually can step forward and do.
And imagine if we could do that. I mean, we could change the world. We could make the world a better place. And I think we really need that right about now.
We do, and we also need to give ourselves credit where credit is due, where we already
Mm-hmm.
have done that, and
Mm-hmm.
to, shout it out, how
Mm-hmm.
amazing it was that, even the difficulties we went through, this is an amazing thing to go
Mm-hmm.
through this process. The same with your martial arts
Mm-hmm.
and the resistance and letting go and just saying, well, okay, I'll give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we have that amazing experience, then we just, wow, that
Mm-hmm.
helps other people who might be behind us or in front of us or wherever they are to go,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it a go too. I don't know where it's going to
Mm-hmm.
end up. But there are a lot of people out there, and we can use each other, not in a kind of sucking kind of way, but in a really
Mm-hmm.
um, respectful way to
Mm-hmm.
step forward in our lives.
And I think what you're talking about actually to me sounds like surrender. And when, it's not the kind of surrender like I give up, it's more like acceptance. It's like, okay, I'm open to receive this. I'm going to give it a try. And just like you said, changing your mindset, changing your self talk is absolutely huge and so empowering.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
So,
to work with people with that too. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
sure. So now tell us, what you've got to offer. Tell us where people can get a hold of you, how to connect with you, et cetera, et cetera. Anything you want to share with the listeners, go for it.
And I was told by you that it'll be in the notes beneath the video as
Of
well.
course.
But you can always text me at 720-936-2634. You might want to mention the text where you saw me on a podcast. I will get back to you. I'm offering people that mention this podcast a free, like 5 or 10 minute mini soul reading, just sort of give you a flavor for it and help you out. If you come to my website, it's Jewel Consultancy, like the diamond, Jewel, and then
Mm-hmm.
consultancy. There are some free videos on leadership and being calm and centered,
Mm-hmm.
and a whole blog with kind of anything you want. I do coaching, mentoring, and part of that mentoring is soul readings. And I'd be happy to chat with you and help you any way I can.
By the way, fantastic website.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, very, very nice. I really enjoyed checking it out and going through it. So, Arlene, thank you so much for being here. I just really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it as well.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Oh, do share this episode with everybody you know, because I do believe that we can make the world a better place. But it all starts with ourselves and it starts deep within ourselves. And it's hard to do it alone. So do contact Arlene, see how she can help you. Obviously, she's very heart centered and heartfelt. And remember, what we tell ourselves is very important. So be careful what you tell yourself, because what you tell yourself is what you believe, and what you believe is what you become. So watch that self talk. You're awesome. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.